What's up, beautiful people? It's O, and I'm gonna keep it real with you here, as I always do on today's episode, and speak into one of the, if not the number one things that keeps us from fully living, loving, giving, living our highest potential, living our best life. And that is a fear of rejection. You could even say fear of failure is one spin-off of that, but really even fear of failure is a fear of rejection. And beneath the fear of any form of rejection, whether it's trolls, haters, somebody misunderstanding you, judging you, scrutinizing you in any way, at the core is this feeling of a loss of love. It's this feeling of unworthiness, that you are not valuable. So we consciously or unconsciously defend against this feeling ever happening. We defend against it through perfectionism, through overanalyzing, through no action, through protecting ourselves. There's so many ways that we can unconsciously be protecting ourselves from this one moment, this one visceral, often clenching feeling in our body of some form of rejection, some misperception, reflection that we are not valuable, not loved, not worthy of love. It is a complete and utter illusion. This fear also sets up the entire people-pleasing matrix. And by people-pleasing, I don't mean being kind or loving or trying to be harmonious with another person. I'm talking about all of the subtle or not so subtle ways that we manipulate ourselves, manipulate our being, our behavior. We withhold, withdraw, water down, distort, dilute our truth in order to try to belong, to try to fit in, to try to get love, which we can't get love. Of course, we can receive someone's love, and that's good news because that means we can't lose love because you are love. So let this sink in. In our attempts to avoid rejection, in your attempt to avoid rejection, you reject yourself. Feel that. When we attempt to avoid rejection through any of the ways that we do that, consciously or unconsciously, we wind up rejecting ourselves. Self-rejection, I promise you, is way more painful than being bold enough, vulnerable enough, brave enough, courageous enough, whatever it takes, or maybe it's just natural for you, and speaking your heart's truth, giving your love in all of its various forms, and then not being received or being rejected. If you're perceiving pain on either end, right? You're just like, wow, rejection, that's painful. And you go, oh, self-rejection, I haven't talked about that yet, but the pain of that, but that's painful too. I'm saying it's way more painful in the end. Then check this out. On one end, it's like if it's pain, we're like kind of negotiating pain paths, right? One of them, moving in the direction of not rejecting yourself, not betraying your own heart, not abandoning your own heart and soul, and speaking, living, loving, giving your truth, your gifts to the world. The pain on that end, or potential pain, because it is an illusion, spoiler alert, has massive upside potential. It holds the prospect that you will be able to rest in peace at the end of your life, knowing that you gave it a good go, knowing that you lived, that you loved, that you gave what was in your heart, that you gave your soul's music. Massive upside potential. The pain pathway in the other direction, not speaking up, avoiding rejection, avoiding conflict. Another way to say this is when you avoid conflict externally, you create internal conflict. Way more painful. Anyway, the pain in the other direction is a contractive devolution, downward spiraling with no potential. Pain over here, temporary pain, massive upside potential. Pain in the other direction, predictable pain, no potential. Actually, the only potential in that pathway is if you endure enough suffering, enough darkness of having your energy, your gifts, your truth implode and invert and start to die inside you and eat you alive from the inside and feel this void. This is some of the pain, right? Potential pain, right? Feeling that void, then the only really upside potential of that is that if you endure enough suffering, it'll take you right back to the invitation to be bold, to be courageous, to actually give whatever it is that you were withholding. So in that sense, it's still serving you, right? If you want to like look at it from a spiritual point of view, it's still serving you. But I'm saying that there's no growth potential, expansion potential. It's predictable. So that's the message. That's the invitation. That's what I'm encouraging you by sharing and illuminating deeper each side of this perspective, to encourage you to not reject yourself. One of the most impactful statements that ever came from me to me, from my soul to me, right? From my higher self to me, was I'd rather betray the world than betray my own soul. That's a really dramatic thing to say. And I don't mean betray in a negative sense. I'm talking about the matrix. I'm talking about the illusion that when I'm speaking and loving and living and giving my heart's truth and my integrity and my innocence, and it appears to be that I'm creating harm, causing harm, taking from another, I'd rather that perception be at play and that reflection come back to me in the form of rejection than to reject myself. I'd rather be alone in integrity with myself and not betray my own heart, betray my own soul, than have the whole world seemingly loving me for some alteration of myself. Obviously, that's a ludicrous idea, because when you're speaking your truth, living your truth, and not rejecting yourself, then you're connected to your true self, which means you're connected to the hearts of everyone, which means, if anything, you're even more of the awareness of the impossibility of being alone. And you're even more in the awareness of all the beings that respect, honor, and revere you and appreciate you for being authentic. Anyone that appears to be threatened, there's just some more inspiration here. Anybody who's in their heart is connected to their power. They could disagree with you. They could passionately disagree with you, have a completely different point of view. They may not even like you, but nobody in their power is going to feel threatened by you being in your power. Get that? So what's happening when someone seems to be threatened, or when they're getting triggered, or when they're getting upset, it's not the being. It's the ego. It's the fear. It's the mind. That's the matrix. Don't fight the matrix. Don't try to play a chess game in the matrix of illusion. Anybody who's in their heart and in their power, irregardless of whether or not they agree or disagree with what it is that you have to say or who it is that you're being, will have a level of honor and respect from their true self. Now, the illusion is that that's not the case. And that's because there's a lot of fear, and a lot of people are living in fear. So when someone's reacting or getting triggered, who or what is it that's getting triggered or reacting? It's not the being, the true self. It is some fabrication, some alteration. It's a manifestation of fear. That's what I mean. It's not even real. So if you fight fear with more fear, if you try to meet someone's mind with their mind, if you try to, avoid being rejected, and they go, oh, I succeeded, now I'm accepted and loved, a person is not actually loving all of you, because it's not all of you. Do you see what I'm saying? So break free from the matrix. There's no better time than now. It's thick out there right now. Come into the authenticity of your being. Come into love fearlessly.